there. It is good to have you join us on today's edition of Worthy by Design, brought to you by Advent Cable Network Nigeria, ACNNTV. On this show, we'll focus on the journey from girlhood to womanhood and everything in between. I am Ibera Chims. Welcome. Last week, we started off on the impact of drug abuse on women, and we had promised to seal up the conversation today. And here we are. Hope you have your notepads ready. Our guest, Mr. Augustine Nduka, the Drug Demand Reduction Officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, FCT Command, is still here in the studio. You're welcome to the show again.
Thank you
Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so we'll go back to where we left out in the conversation. Now, there's research that, 2/3 of women with substance misuse problems have recurrent mental health conditions, like depression, post-traumatic stress, and all of that. What do you make of this research?
Thank you very much once again. It's really evident that substance use most times doesn't occur alone. And that's why we have the subject of co-occurring mental or medical disorders.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that when disorders co-occur, it means that the first disease doesn't occur alone.
Okay.
Two diseases
They come together.
are happening inside the same individual.
Like Legion.
That's right, that's right. So substance use can co-occur with other medical disorders, like for instance, you can have someone that is addicted to drugs also having HIV/AIDS. That's a medical disorder.
Okay.
But a mental health disorder like depression and post-PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, are all mental health disorders. They also co-occur with substance use, and that's the subject of co-occurring mental or medical disorders.
Okay.
And you actually have also seen that the depression and other mental health disorders happen. There are cases where an underlying mental health disorder will be resident, dormant, for instance, in the individual. And when the person goes to take drugs, drug wakes it up. And both begin to happen in the same time. And it presents a lot of challenge, even in treatment, because you must treat the same time. You cannot say, wait with your depression, let me treat substance use disorder. You are going to ensure that in treatment, you are treating the depression, you're also treating the substance use
And that's more
disorder.
complicated.
More complicated. And for women that are unique, there are women with pregnancy, there are women with children, there are women who work in the streets, for instance, prostitution, for instance. So there are women that are migrants, there are women in minorities. Then, of course, there are violence against women,
So all of this comes together.
So all comes to women. So there are blocks of different women, the young women, the married women that are late, the divorced. Then so much happens, and it presents a whole lot of challenge, even in treatment management. And most importantly, women, like we earlier said, due to biology, hormonal changes and all these things, accounts for some of the mood disorders that are present and can co-occur with substance use when they go taking substances. Yes.
Okay. So now we have found that, a certain lady, somebody's daughter, somebody's wife, or somebody's sister is now an addict. What is the way forward?
One of the major way forward is, for instance, we say in substance use and addiction, we earlier said that it's an illness, it's a disease, and it's a disease of the brain. That's right.
I can't forget
So,
that.
and in treatment, early identification and intervention is key. And that's why parental understandings of the signs and symptoms of substance use is important.
Then let's focus on that.
Okay.
Signs and symptoms of substance use.
Okay. It's important that in parenting, in addition to the parental skills that we have as parents and caregivers, that we begin to monitor our children to see signs, because early initiations of substance use leads to signs that are visible,
Okay.
and that can only be detected by someone who is knowledgeable in it.
Okay.
For instance, remember we said that all the metabolites of most drugs ends up in the brain. And when you give a child a chore to do in the house, and he or she doesn't finish doing that, for instance, mopping or cleaning the house, and he doesn't finish that, and he goes to do other chores and all that, as a parent, you need to begin to find out that it's likely possible that the center of the brain that has to do with attention, sustaining attention, starting an activity and following through to the end may have been affected. And that's why these children can't stay in the class, because they can't even sustain attention. As they're in the class, they might be there physically, but they are off there. So drug affects attention and attention span, and it affects learning and learning capabilities.
Okay.
So that's the first suspicion. Then when a child starts becoming very moody, for instance, your son, your daughter that used to converse and she laughs with you, suddenly starts becoming very moody,
And
frowns
withdrawn.
and gets angry and withdrawn, it should raise your suspicion as a parent. Then when your ward start locking his or her room, lock the room up, nobody could access him, he or she doesn't come down to the family dining table or the sitting room to chat with everyone anymore, you need to begin to probe and find out. And if you probe further as a mother or as a father, you might find out that there is either marijuana left in his pocket, or there's a tablet that you may not be able to identify. And when you get that, it's possible for you to seek counsel from experts, like the NDLEA or any counseling center, and find out what the drug is.
So now you're saying that the NDLEA provides counseling
That's right.
for addicts.
That's right.
Great.
That's right. The NDLEA has a law enforcement arm that deals with supply reduction activities. We go arrest, we seize exhibit, then we prosecute these dealers and offenders. Then the other aspect is demand reduction, where we now provide preventive drug education in the media, just like what you have us doing today. Then we also offer treatment. In prevention, you are talking to people, don't start, don't progress. Even if you are started doing these drugs, why don't you reduce what you're doing? Why don't you stop?
So NDLEA does this for people. But, you know, a mother or a father or, you know, family, you know, could have the fear that, oh, I bring forward my child or my sister, that, oh, she is an addict. There's the fear that she will be arrested.
No, that's not right. That's not right. Like we said initially, the disease model is the present level world over about substance use and addiction. Addiction is a disease.
Okay.
You don't arrest someone that is diabetic or hypertensive. So
Okay.
addiction is a disease, and it's a disease of the brain.
Okay.
So medical science have recognized that, and NDLEA has also recognized that. So the arm of treatment and rehabilitation is one of the cardinal pillars of the NDLEA strategy.
Okay.
So we prevent by enlightening the public.
Okay.
We also work with families to treat and rehabilitate their children or their wards, including mothers and women who have substance use challenges. That's right.
Are there other signs, you know, friends, you know, families and, you know, people around could look out for in people who they suspect to be addicted? Apart from the ones you have mentioned, you know, withdrawal syndrome and all of that.
Yeah, basically there are other signs. For instance, reddishness of the eye, For people that take marijuana or weed, you discover that in the first 30 minutes after smoking a joint of marijuana, the eyes are so red. And that's because THC, the active ingredient, dilates the pupil of the eye. And by osmosis or so, blood will now rush. When the black area of the eye, the blood vessels in the eye are dilated, they are widened. So blood now moves into those areas. Within 30 minutes after smoking marijuana, their eyes are very reddish. Then lips, of course, are black, and several other signals, you know, that parents need to look out for. And most importantly, parents need to understand that there are rapid drug testing kits that are available that you could buy as a father, as you could come to NDLA, and I know there are other vendors that sells them, that when you get a sample of urine from your daughter or from your son, and just put the strip there, within 5 minutes, you're able to test whether your ward have taken about 12 or 8 different substances within 5 minutes. It's confirmatory test.
So this is part of the early dictation.
That's right, that's right. If you're able to detect early, then your intervention can be the chances of you getting out. But remember too, that addiction is a relapsing brain disorder. In other words, after treatment, the tendency to go back to drug use is very high.
So what is the solution in that case?
Solution are actually there. Pharmacotherapy, that's medication assisted when they are there. Then there are types of treatment. The craving in addiction is so challenging that even when the addict signs an undertaking that he or she is not going to take drugs again, when the craving comes, he forgets all that. Someone has actually told me that cocaine has a voice, that once it calls, that I must obey. So addiction is a chronic illness, and it's a relapsing condition. So treatment, residential treatment, in a good number of times, are the success. Most residential treatment are also a little bit high because
residential, you mean?
The child is moved into the facility to stay for minimum, let's say 3-4 months, and maybe a maximum, depending on the severity and the type of drug that he or she is abusing. But minimum of 4 months and maximum, some do a year even treatment programs. Then there are medication will be used. Then there is counseling. Then there is behavioral change modification. You can only teach that when the addict have detoxified, when the chemicals have gone out of his or her system.
And that can only be done if the person submits his or herself.
The person stops further intake. Then the ones that have been taken will get eliminated out of the body system.
Naturally?
Naturally, it happens in a good number of them. But medication can speed it up. And also medication will help in stemming down the withdrawal symptoms that follows the removal of these drugs from your system. But when a drug is going out, your body is resisting. Your body is withdrawing. Your body is showing all those signs and symptoms.
So let's hang it there for a bit. We'll go on a short break. Catch your breath. There's more to come right after this break. Please stay with us.
Why do we fall ill? Is it possible to stay without falling ill? Is God interested in our health? Can we get access to cheaper health anywhere? Do you want tips on how to stay healthy? Health Watch, a program to educate you viewers on how to take care of your bodies and deal with different health-related issues.
We have been speaking with Mr. Augustine Nduka of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, FCT Command. You can follow the conversation on our various social media handles on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Worthy by Design 20. Now we have talked about the fact that there's hope, there's a cure, right? But are there barriers to treatment, especially for women? You know, when you're a woman, it looks like there are a lot of factors that work against you. You know, you had mentioned the fact that, okay, she has children or she's either pregnant or, you know, there are so many things involved. What are the barriers to her treatment? She decides that, okay, I am coming to NDLEA or whichever organization for my treatment. What barriers are they?
Yeah, there are a couple of actually barriers that impede the early uptake and access and also retention of women in treatment programs.
Okay.
And we have also seen that probably some of these barriers could account for the inability to actually estimate rightly the amount or the number of women that has the substance use challenge, because women cases are underreported.
Is that because of stigma or?
That's right.
Stigma.
That's right. I once managed a young lady who I was speaking with a mom, and you know, she told me that Mr. Nduka, he said, do you know that she comes in late in the midnight and she's a woman? And you know she's a woman. That's her words. She's saying that if it was a boy,
It wouldn't be a problem.
it wouldn't have been a problem. You know, it's a stigma in the mind of the people. You know, she actually was so concerned about that, her daughter. And so there are so many barriers to the uptake and access. In uptake, the society doesn't really, they think that it's not natural for a woman to be doing drugs. That it's alien, that she's a lady, that she's a homekeeper. There's a societal expectation. So when women do drug, families hide it.
Okay.
Families hide it. They tend to think it's not existing. They pray it goes away. But
that's not the solution.
But it's not the solution. It's just like prescribing, having a wrong prescription, trying to treat a disease and prescribing wrongly.
And hoping that the person gets well.
That's right, that's right. It's called the law of madness. You know, someone actually said that if you are riding a horse and the horse suddenly dies, and you found out that your horse is dead, what's the most logical thing for you to do?
Find another means.
Is to dismount and leave the horse. But some people will want to go and study how do we revive a dead horse so that I can keep riding it. The best thing to do is to dismount from that horse. There are applications and methodologies that have been happening over the years that doesn't lead to a favorable outcome, even in treatment. Women, like we said, women are more likely not to be supported to go and take up treatment than the male. Women are more likely not to have any person come support her. I once managed a woman that was arrested. She was actually HIV positive during the counseling. And she had a young baby daughter that should be like 3-4 years. And because she was HIV positive, she was told that there's a doctor that needs about 150,000 naira. And that if she goes get that money and pays to the doctor, that the doctor was going to give her a medication that would treat the HIV/AIDS at once. She had to leave the little daughter with some neighbors in Kaduna and travel to Ondo State to go and pick up marijuana. And she was arrested by our people along Abuja Highway.
And that was supposed to be the treatment for HIV?
Yes, she was going to raise the money to use to go and
right.
pay for the treatment.
Okay.
And she's HIV positive.
Oh, okay.
Of course, she takes weed, marijuana, to manage the trauma in her brain. She's already addicted to weed. She's also HIV positive. So the drug takes away the memories from her.
Oh.
And she once told me that if
It seems to take away.
Yes, it seems to take away, that's right. You know, she once told me that if her neighbors in Kaduna can find out that she is HIV positive, that they were going to abandon that baby, that little 4-year-old baby she left behind.
So her situation was complicated.
Complicated, that's the point.
Now we will round out in a bit, but not before you tell us, you know, why women would decide that, okay, you know, I don't like the way I look, or I don't like the way I feel, and I think drugs will be what will solve it. As a counselor, what would you be saying to that woman out there that feels that way?
Most importantly, your program says Worthy by Design. I was really amazed seeing that title, and I know that women are unique. Women are worthy the way they are designed. Women don't need to add anything to what God has made. God has created them in his own image and likeness, and they are perfect, you know. So if you're a lady and you think that being slim is fashionable, that's because the world media has told you that. And you need to be content with your body makeup. Of course, I'm not saying you shouldn't go for exercises. You shouldn't go for whatever that will make the blood run through your system. But most importantly, you need to know that there are criminal organizations that are marketing most of the medications that we'll see, you know, or drugs we'll see. And they said they are for slimming down, they are for that or for that. So when women delve into these things without knowing, addiction is a trap. Once you are caught up with it, you just keep going, except there is early identification and intervention in the area of treatment. And when celebrities get addicted, presents another great challenge. In some of the videos that I mentioned, there's a young woman who has his 4 or 5 years old boy with a bottle of beer dancing in a party. There's also another woman who went to a ceremony, and the young son of about 5 years, 6 years was actually having a green bottle of alcohol drinking. So you find out that when women have issues, especially in their mental health states or in their parenting inadequacies, because parenting is a skill. No one is born with parenting skills. You need to learn it as a mother so that you can also parent wisely your own children. So women are worthy by the way they are designed, and they need drugs will definitely take them away from that worthiness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You've heard it all. Women are worthy by the way they are designed, and drugs will take that away from you. For anyone out there struggling with any of the conditions mentioned, be rest assured that you are not alone. You deserve to get help. But first, you must acknowledge that you need help. Then reach out for it and watch your life take a turn in the positive direction. Need I remind you that you are special, beautiful, and a gift to your world. Yes, you are worthy by design. A big thank you to our guest, Mr. Augustine Nduka from the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, FCT Command. Thank you so much for making it to the show. We have learned a lot.
Thank you.
Well, it's a wrap on today's edition of the show. Join us again next week, same time, same station, for another insightful conversation. Until then, remember, ladies, you are worthy by design, and stay off drugs. See you next time.